Hello and welcome to a very special video on part 1 of Warhammer Annual 2002. Now I picked a very particular part of this book out to talk about, but we're going to go over in a few different episodes some elements of it. Beautiful steam tank right there. Now back in the day, Warhammer Fantasy was a really big deal, and it was very much more popular where I lived than 40K. Let's go ahead and move that out of the way. So let's talk about Dogs of War. Now, back in the day, the Dogs of War were quite an interesting concept and offered a huge amount of flavor and kind of niche units. There's some pretty wild ones out there as we see the home of the mercenary. Nice little map. Let's try to get that in a little bit more of a section here. Let's show that ugly ass desk. Yeah! But they were an interesting way of expressing things. Now, this book contained an army list for them, which I will go through all of the rules. Some lovely art right there. But we'll hit up some of the brighter elements. So we got a little bit of the lords and core units. They had some pretty cool units back in the day, and if I can find some better pictures, I'll try to throw them up. But we have Regiments of Renown, and another fantastic piece of art. And I'm going to just struggle turning this page. So we got, oh yeah, the Desert Dogs. I actually wanted this unit, but the problem was they couldn't get it where I lived. And honestly, I didn't have the full kind of money to grab them. Golfregs, 8 ogres. Here's a fun one. These guys, who are an interesting group, if you know what I'm talking about. Then we have some other elements in there. And we'll show off another little bit just to add to the video, to give you an idea of just kind of the amount of content in this. Lords of Creation, a Lizardmen army list. Gav Thorpe helped with it. There's some models for you, ladies and gentlemen, right there. Now, this gives you a good chunk of it. Lizardmen were not actually a popular army, believe it or not. We get some stuff on spawnings in the area where I lived. The Empire and Orcs were the most popular. That's a fantastic piece right there. Let's zoom in on that real quick by not zooming in and then zooming in. Shazam, check out that. Who would not want that on their tabletop? Just tell me. Just tell me. And then we got the core rules. Another piece of grid artwork for them. Rare units. I love that this section feels distinctly different than this section where the Dogs of War are. You actually feel like these are different things. And then we got a showcase for heavy metal. Lizardmen were not like a popular army. I always liked them, but they weren't super popular where I was. They were kind of a pain to get a hold of in some cases. And it was just one of those weird elements. And next time, ladies and gentlemen, when we do a section, we're going to talk about the Bretonnians. In fact, we're just going to go ahead and bookmark that. Give you a little image of the back real quick. And I'm just going to talk about this. This is before your end times, before a crushing of a cornerstone of what Warhammer was at that time. It was grand fantasy armies, very much different things, but it was also a time where certain armies just lingered and lingered for battle tomes. Models were not updated often, or in some cases ever. It was an interesting time because there were some great things about it. But a lot of the problems that would come to haunt many of us with the crushing of the old world really did exist from this time period where effectively, the company let a lot of things stagnate, and there's a lot of reasons for it. It's not entirely all the company's fault in some regards. It was market conditions, situations themselves, what was working, what wasn't working. 40K was starting to become a bigger and bigger thing. But to me, this book represents a Games Workshop that no longer exists. This was fairly thick book that I bought a lifetime ago, effectively, gives a ton of different elements to things. Each of the sections of the book feel vastly different and interesting, and it feels like there was a lot of, at least if not love, at least attempts at keeping it consistent and putting a lot of effort into it. The book is filled with things like the Knights of Tzeentch, different sections, crafting things, and on and on. And we'll go through all of that. So if you guys are interested, we'll go through that, and I'll ruminate on more of my personal feelings and all this. But let me close with this. Warhammer might not have had models that have the most crisp details at this time. They might not have been perfect. I found that there was a perfection in their imperfection. They had a charm. It was a more honest time. They had a Warhammer in their Warhammer iconography. And there were just a lot of things that were kind of fun and entertaining. And it was an interesting time. It felt like at least some people gave a crap. Even if they didn't love Warhammer like many of its fans, they cared enough to put the best they could into it. And even in a time period where the stagnation started to kind of seep in and really take hold of things in certain areas, you still got really great things. You could get books that felt like somebody actually cared and wanted to put the effort in. That's not to besmirch people who are fans of the newer stuff, but it's to say, when you look at a lot of the newer stuff, it's a lot of gloss, it's a lot of shine, but a lot of times it feels very, very hollow. But that's just my personal opinions. Do you guys want to see more of this? Let me know in the comment section. Did you guys own one of these? I'm planning on recovering a few more editions of the annuals and doing stuff on them as series as well. But hey guys, I hope you have a fantastic day. If we never see each other again, I hope you have a great life. And till then, hey, everybody's a nobody to somebody. Bye-bye.